Hey there, I am Alexander Stefanini. If you are the parent or caregiver of a trans child, teenager, adult child who has come out to you as trans, this video is for you. I am a licensed professional counselor, a trans man. I've been doing this for many years. I've been a licensed therapist for 20 years. I'm also the owner of Arrive Therapy, which you can find at arrivetherapy.com. And we are an all LGBTQ counseling practice. We're all mental health counselors, but we focus on supporting kids, teens, parents, as well as adults who are trans, but in particular parents of trans kids and teens. So I've got approximately 20 things that you can do to support your trans child who's come out to you. You can really be at any stage, but in particular when they have first come out to you, this is really like geared for you. So the first thing I would suggest you do is just thank them. You know, even if they've already come out to you, you can come back and do these things. Just thank them for sharing with you. Like many times kids don't share with their parents. They don't feel comfortable. They don't feel brave enough. And so your kid has come to you and trusted you with this information. No matter how you feel about it, no matter if you think it's true or you're concerned about it, you're concerned about safety, just thank them that they have shared this with you. Tell them you love them. Don't say, I love you, even though you're trans, just say, I love you. You're my kid, no matter what you're going through, no matter what you tell me about yourself, I love you. And we'll figure this out together. And just listen to them. Just, don't say a lot at first. Just, kids come here and, parents bring their kids here to us, and often the parents have done way too much talking. Hey, this isn't right for you. And how did you figure this out? Blah, blah, blah. And the kid hasn't had a really chance to share with their parents, like in depth about how they came to understand this about themselves. What does dysphoria look like for them? What does it feel like? And how did they get to this, knowing about themselves? So I'd encourage you just to listen. Yeah, you can ask some questions. Asking questions is also good. But don't say a lot. Just don't comment. Let them share with you. And then, you take some time to really gather your thoughts, build that connection, that trust with them. And there will be times, I'm a parent myself, there is time for you to share your thoughts and your concerns. And that's one of the things we do here at Arrive Therapy is that we allow you to share with us your concerns, and we help you have those conversations with your kid. Right? So they can share with you what's going on with them in depth. And then you also can say, hey, but here's like what I'm thinking. Here's what my concerns are. So, but if you've got a really open, trusting relationship, you can do that with your kid outside of therapy. Just believe them, like in the moment, suspend some of your own doubt and just go like, okay, whether this ends up being where they go with their life and their, gender journey, transitioning or being trans, it doesn't really matter in that moment. Just like if you believe them in that moment that this is true for them, they're telling you their truth in that moment. They're gonna get that. They're gonna feel that like, okay, my parents taking me seriously. They're believing this is what I'm saying to them. They're believing this is important to me. And then, wherever you go from there, there's gonna be more open dialogue. There's gonna be more open trust if you just let yourself believe them about what they're saying. That doesn't mean you have to believe immediately that this is true and this is the right path for them, but just give them that benefit of the doubt in the moment. Do your best. You're gonna make mistakes, but just do your very best and give yourself a little grace that you're gonna, you are gonna make mistakes and you are gonna say things maybe that are hurtful to your kid. The other thing about that is just apologize. So if you say something, you're like, oh, I shouldn't have said that, or maybe later down the road, you kind of learn, you go like, oh, that wasn't really the best thing to say. I hear this so often from parents. Just go back to your kid and apologize and say like, I didn't really know to do better in that moment, or I was feeling really, scared or angry in that moment, and I said that and that wasn't okay, and I can see that that hurt you. And 9 times out of 10, your kid is gonna see that you care and you're working to do better, and you like genuinely care that you hurt them. And that's the message that you really want to send. It's not that you're gonna be perfect, because you're not gonna be perfect. None of us are, even if our kids are not trans. Follow their lead. If they want to take things slowly, if they're like, I don't want to go to a gender clinic, I don't, just follow their lead. If they want to go a little bit more quickly, it doesn't mean you have to say yes to everything. It doesn't mean you have to say like, yes, we're going to do this, and yes, we're going to do everything you want to do. But just, they're like, yes, I really want to talk to a therapist. I really want to talk to a gender therapist. Just let them take those steps. If they want to start using a different name, some kids want to use different pronouns but not a different name. Some kids want to use a different name but not different pronouns. So especially in those things that are not, you're not making any permanent decisions, just follow their lead and let them experiment. The other thing, just let them experiment. It's not going to hurt them to try different clothing styles, to get their hair cut or let their hair grow. Those things, for teenagers in particular and young adults, that's all about self-exploration. Like, it's a time in their life developmentally where they're figuring out who they are in so many different ways. And they're exploring with lots of different styles of music, different friend groups. And exploring gender identity is now a thing that kids are learning more about, and kids are more aware that gender identity is another thing to kind of find your place and figure out what is your gender expression. Is your gender expression super masculine, very feminine, somewhere in the middle? And that can be independent of, you can be a trans feminine, where you are transitioning to being female, but still be a little bit more tomboyish. I mean, there's so many different combinations of gender identity and gender expression, which are two separate things. I would say connect with resources. So get yourself into PFLAG, join mama bear groups. In most townships or cities or areas, there's going to be some kind of trans parent support group. Just go to that for a period of time, listen to other people's stories, ask, hey, what books can I read? Where can I go to get more information? Where's a safe therapist to see? Somebody who's going to give you information, guide you, but not be overly biased, because you don't want a therapist who's going to push you or your family in any direction. You really do want a therapist, and we really work hard to do that here at Arrive Therapy, that is going to hear you right where you at and really, let you go on your own journey as a parent of like coming to understand this, asking questions, grieving, having a lot of emotions, and not feeling ostracized, not feeling alienated because you're going through your own process. And obviously you don't want a therapist who's going to push your kid in one direction or the other. So really asking those parents, like, what therapists are you using? Where is a safe place for things? And what books are you reading? That kind of stuff. So gender clinics, again, gender clinics are part of major health systems that are doing things following WPATH standards, following major medical guidelines from the American Psychological Association, from the boards of medicine, from WPATH, which is the World Professional Association of Trans Health. So there's a whole list of guidelines, like a 200-page document of guidelines on trans care, from counseling trans folks to medical care. So those clinics, that's their expertise. That's what they do. Again, I've never experienced a gender clinic to push families in one direction or the other. Their role is to really be there as a guide, to kind of follow your process as a family. So again, like educating yourself, that's part of getting resources. Just learn. There's going to be a bunch of new terminology. There's going to be stuff you need to know. There's going to be things like, what's the difference between gender expression and gender identity, and what's the difference between transmasculine and non-binary and agender. There's so many different things that, terminology and language that will really help you in your conversations with your kids. So just begin to educate yourself. And there's so much education available. There's, so many YouTubers explaining these things. What does non-binary mean? What does X, Y, and Z mean? How do you use they, them pronouns? And why is that okay to do? So just start being curious. I would really encourage you just to be curious and just start learning. And that's going to benefit you, whether this ends up being a path that your kid goes down or not, whether they change their mind or decide that, like, this is something I've explored, but I'm not gonna follow through with this. But it's still gonna be good for you to have learned those things. Attend events with your kid, go to Pride, just begin to embrace this part of them. As a parent, as a parent myself, there are things about my kid and things that they like or they won't do that I'm like, oh, I really don't really like that kind of thing myself. But I think that's part of being a parent, is just jumping in and being with them where they're at and learning about what's important to them. And that can be, a challenge for parents. So get therapy along with, getting resources and support. Get therapy for you. You don't even have to bring your kid. I love it when parents call us up and they say, like, I need help. This is going on with my kid and I'm freaking out and I don't know how to be I don't know how to be a good parent right now to my kid in this way. And that's our job that we do here, is to help you really find what's right for you and how is best for you to work with your child. And each situation is going to be different. Just let go, just let go and understand that your kid's journey is not going to always be what you wanted it to be. That happens so often for lots of different reasons. Maybe you want your kid to be, an attorney or something, an engineer. You think they'd be good at that, and they want to be an artist. I mean, there's so many things that we don't have control of as parents, and I think that's one of the hardest things about being a parent, especially for teenagers and young adults, is that they really begin to be more in control of their own path. So in order to keep that relationship with your kid, it can be really helpful and healthy to kind of let go again a little bit and just say, like, these are the emotions I'm having. This is the way I'm feeling about it. But I'm not really totally in control of the path that my kid takes, and I'm not totally in control of how they see themselves and what they want for themselves. And as your kid gets older, that becomes more and more apparent. So just check in with them. Like a lot of times I hear from parents like, oh yeah, we had that conversation. They came out to me and we've not talked about it in like 8 months. Just check back in with them. And I know a lot of times it feels like an uncomfortable thing to talk about. Maybe they're uncomfortable talking about it, but you as the parent going to them and saying, like, I'm curious what's going on. Like, where are you with this? What can I do? Like, ask them questions. What can I do to help you? What do you need from me? And that just lets them know, even if they say no, they might be 15 years old. I don't need anything from you. I'm good. That's great. Just keep asking, like periodically check in with them. Prioritizing their mental health. There is such a higher incidence of suicidality, suicide attempts, anxiety and depression, social anxiety for trans teenagers and trans young adults. That's due to minority stress. That's due to gender dysphoria. There's so many reasons for that, and when they begin to live more authentically, there's lots of studies on this, when they begin to live more authentically and they really do receive support for the gender dysphoria, most of those statistics of higher incidences of suicidality and that type of thing, they come back down to normal, like for the normal general population of teen and young adults. So again, prioritizing mental health, it's like small things like letting your kid dress differently. If you notice, hey, when my kid wears those clothes, they're a little brighter, they're a little more outgoing, they're a little happier. So prioritizing their mental health over what you want them to be doing as a parent or what makes you uncomfortable, and just knowing, like, I have to deal with my own uncomfort. And I can see that my kid actually is thriving when I use a different name or pronoun for them, or I let them, hang out with other trans kids or whatever it is that they're asking from you. Another thing is just become an ally. Like, eventually you'll get to a place where you're like, okay, I accept my kid. I've come through this process of being scared, being upset, not thinking this is true, and then now I've really come to learn. You'll get to the other side where this isn't like consuming you all the time. But what I find happens with parents is that they begin to look at the world and say, like, the world isn't a safe place for my kid. Like, what is going on in the world? And that's the time for you to begin to be an ally. Like, what you can do is you can join groups and become part of movements, whether that's just, supporting trans support groups or, being in the free mom hugs, or, something doesn't have to be a large commitment, but something that makes you feel like you're helping the world be a safer place for your kid. And that's what you can begin to do as a parent. And again, that sends like a really important message to your kid that you really are embracing them and you really are supporting them and you're trying to make the world a better place for them, which I think that, if we all want to do for our kids. So the last thing I would say is ask before acting. So, like, for example, if you want to share with friends, or about how your kid has come out, or you want to talk to family members or something else, just ask your kid. Like, say, is that okay? Like, here's why I want to do that. I want to do that so that when we go to family reunion, you can dress and present how you want to. And your kid might say, no, I'm not ready for that. I just can't handle that right now. That doesn't mean that they don't identify as trans. It doesn't mean that their coming out is authentic. It's just a lot to take on. It's a lot to take on the world, and giving them the choice of, like, when to share their information, when to do one thing or the other. And again, that goes back to following their lead and just kind of asking them. The very last thing is just forgive yourself. Like, you aren't going to be perfect. You are going to be an imperfect parent. I'm an imperfect parent. And just, like, start with being kind to yourself. giving yourself grace. And that's one of the things we do as therapists here at Arrive Therapy is like, just give you grace as parents. Like, vast 99% of the time, you want the best for your child. You are doing the best you can in that moment and just forgiving yourself. And when you begin to forgive yourself, it's going to be easier to do a lot of these things. It's going to be easier to let yourself have the emotions that you're having, to grieve, to be angry, and then going to be more easy to be curious and check in with your kid. So please check us out at Arrive Therapy. I really hope this information was helpful to you. We would love to talk with you about mental health counseling, about gender counseling, working with you as a parent if that's something you feel like would be good for you. So arrivetherapy.com. And I'm really happy you listened to this video. Thanks so much.